Good evening. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. So, I just wanted to do a little catch up. I had a couple of people asking, what am I up to? Right? And so, just want to play a little catch up. What's been happening with me? And for those of you that may not know me personally, that's okay. You'll get to know me. I want to start opening up a little bit more personally and sharing more of the intimate aspects of myself. I would really love to use my mic, but I'm still mastering parts of it because for some reason it is very staticky, and that's irritating for me. And I don't know how you guys hear it, but when I go back to listen to the video, it's like something's being crunched up in the background. I don't like that. And so I have refrained lately from using the mic until I can either get a better one or figure out like what I need to do to master the frequencies of this microphone. Give me 1 second. So I am going to, while we're talking, catching up, I'm going to light one of my apple crisp incense just to kind of sweeten the energy here. Right? Nothing wrong with a little good fragrance, right? And so, yeah, so I'm just coming on tonight just to have a very informal conversation about what's been going on with me. And hopefully we will be able to have a nice little catch up. And so, first of all, let me say that for many, they may not have seen me or talked to me in a while. First of all, I want you to know that I am just doing me, and minding my business, keeping my skin moist, drinking my water, staying out of, stuff that has nothing to do with me. So, trying to get the most out of life and what I have left, and this is my way of doing that. Not to say that there hasn't been things that, that have been challenging for me, because I think life is about, challenges and being challenged and overcoming and growing stronger and wiser. And so all of those things have their place. But overall, it has been a journey where I am really being intentional, right? I feel like I'm in a season where I'm being called to do that, be very intentional about what it is that I'm doing. And so, I've just been really in my own lane, doing my thing, attuning myself, with the divine, with my creator, trying to be in alignment with what it is that has been given, for me to do. And also, I think one of the major things that's happening with me right now too is realizing this level of contentment, that I found. That's always been there, It's just a matter of understanding what that is. Many times we have to go through a lot to realize the level of contentment. You take someone who, I don't know why I'm thinking of, what is his name? the guy that got shipwrecked, or he was flying and he was the only one that made it out of the flight alive. And he was shipwrecked on that island, and all he had was like a soccer ball named Wilson. I forget the Tom Hanks, and he was shipwrecked for like many years, and he had to learn to accommodate that lifestyle of being alone and creating a sense of his imagination to keep him company. I'm thinking of that because going back to what I started with, talking about contentment, contentment is really based on our perception. It's realizing reality is actually birthed from how we're seeing things, and being free from contentment is being free. Well, my type of a contentment that I'm talking about is the type of contentment that frees us from needing any particular circumstance to be content, or having to have any particular type of connection, or interaction. It's being able to find that within self. And so the reason why I referenced that movie is because he had to learn to find contentment in his situation. And it was interesting to see like all of the different transitions that he went through, in that movie, the different phases, being in that circumstance, caused him to actually go through. But in all of those circumstances, there were times in that movie where he had actually found a sense of contentment, even though it was for, short periods of time. If I have to go back and watch that movie, but there were times in that movie when he was alone on that island that he felt content. Like he had learned to fish, he learned to take care of his own basic needs for survival, and as long as that was taken care of, he had found a level of contentment in knowing what to expect, what was coming next. And so, and I think it's really based on our perception. And I'm learning that. I have learned that. And that's one of the things that I'm cultivating, in this time for myself, is that sense of contentment, not based on circumstances, not based on who I'm connected with or what they can do for me, or, what I have. But that contentment is based on the fact that I'm well, I'm in my right mind, I'm able to navigate in a way where I'm able to fulfill what needs to be done for myself and those dependent upon me. And so I've always been, someone who has appreciated simplicity. It doesn't take a lot for me. It never really has. As I think back to who I have always been, it hasn't taken a lot for me. I've never been one to like be above and beyond. It's always been like very simple things. And I guess I attribute that to my upbringing. I had a very humble upbringing, and because of that, I've learned contentment, in situations that are not ideal, but they're situations where we can actually be very thankful, and understanding that it didn't even have to be that. It could have been much worse. And I found that that has been a blessing, being able to reference back to, little lessons I've been taught in growing up. But the season that I'm in right now, what's going on with me is just that. It's finding contentment in the simplest of things, and freeing myself from having to be tied to a certain type of situation or circumstance, having my happiness be dependent upon something or someone. And so that's one of the major things that I'm thankful for. And that's one of the major practices that I'm in right now, is practicing the principle of contentment. I'm just trying to live. And in that living, part of that is following my heart's desire. Growing up, I've always been a person who dreamed a lot. Though I didn't expect a lot in the physical, this is where all of my complex parts of my being is. It's in my imagination. I have a history of being a dreamer. As far as I can remember, I've had dreams, of which they've been very interesting dreams, and dreams that actually tied into reality in many ways. And I've also had certain circumstances where I have visions as well. But I've always been, someone who dreamt big, you know, um, which is interesting now that I think, because I've simplistically, my reality has been just that. It's been very simple. But when it comes to my imagination, I think big. And I actually do reach for big. I challenge myself in that way. I always have. And whenever I miss an opportunity, I always promise myself I will never ever miss that opportunity again, And so I've learned from myself in that way, and allowing myself, now that I'm here, right here now in this space, I've really allowed myself to follow my heart's desire, whatever that could be, whatever that could be. And part of that for me has been allowing myself to tap into that magical, I'm going to use the word magic, right? Because it's, for some, would be considered fantasy, if we can say that, right? It's allowing yourself at, 30 and above to still enjoy things that the heart of a young girl would enjoy, magical things. The fact that we would wake up and, open presents, or we would go searching for Easter eggs, that's the level of magic I'm talking about. And right now, I've cultivated this very beautiful energy where I've allowed that, and I've opened my heart to that, to allow myself to dream, to allow myself to visualize and imagine, free from restriction, and even allowing myself to be called to something more than what I'm seeing. I could talk on and on about what that looks like, but I'm not going to go into detail, but just letting you know where I've been, really cultivating this space, this safe space for myself, that entails this level of contentment and openness to my heart's desire. And speaking of heart's desire, I really do feel like everything that I allow myself to dream, to be open to visualize, they're things that I feel like has been placed in my heart. They're not just stuff that I come up with, but they're things that's been given to me, and they're sacred and they're personal to me. And so they're things that I take very seriously. Like, I don't take them lightly. And the fact that I have allowed room for these things to come to fruition. And these are actually things that I never really talked about. I think I may have shared these things, like my dreams, the fact that I have very predictive dreams, that some of them actually have come true. Some of them actually have been like a foretelling of what was to happen. I don't think I've ever shared that with probably maybe one or two people. Maybe one or two people, because it has been something that I don't know why I didn't never share it. I don't know why I kept that, because I guess I wasn't sure myself if it was real for me. And so, and the times that I did share it, the response was like, what are you talking about? Like, it was such a, like I'm explaining something way up here, and then, there was just such a mismatch to the frequency when I opened up in that way. It was like, why open up when nobody's really going to understand? And so what I've done now is I've cultivated a space for myself, I've cultivated a space for me to step into that, free from me being dependent upon anyone's response or anyone's ability to understand me. That's irrelevant, in this space for me. And so basically what I've done is I've really cultivated this sacred space for myself. And part of that has been my ability to openly share what I feel like I've been given. But when I openly share, it's not to convince anybody of what it is that I believe and how I'm moving through my heart's desire. It's not for me to convince anybody. It's not for me to pull anybody on board with me, but it is my expression that liberates my heart and that allows me to acknowledge my calling to more, if that makes sense. In addition to that, I've been healing. And that is a whole big can of worms. Part of my healing has been me being willing to speak, what has been bubbling up on the inside, unmuzzling my mouth. And in so many ways, there's been so many different things that cause me to kind of shirk back from speaking, whether it's people taking what I said and rearranging it to mean something totally different other than my intention, or whether it's people wanting to take away my voice, altogether, not wanting me to talk or say anything, or whether it's just people that completely, dismiss, what it is that I would have to say. It's overcoming those things and healing myself and liberating myself from the interaction that I would have and understanding the power in my voice, regardless of what the response is, right? That has been part of the healing. And a lot of that healing and that speaking, I feel like for me, really comes through unspoken wounds that I've carried since I was really, really young. Things that have created shame, things that have created anger within me, things that have created pain that I didn't know how to get over or release. Things that created this level of stagnancy, in my life. And it was almost like a crippling thing that kept me from maturing in different ways. And so part of what I've been doing is lots of inner work, lots of healing. And it's interesting because this started maybe about 3 years ago, and 3 or 4 years ago, where I felt like there was this shift in my reality. And immediately, these things that were hidden were brought to the forefront for me to deal with them. And I mean, you talking about some painful stuff, it was painful. It was painful realizing all that had been stuffed down, stuff that I had not dealt with, stuff that I was too busy to deal with, or maybe I just didn't know how to deal with it. But I have been on this healing journey and revisiting the past in a way that allows me to, number one, acknowledge that it caused me pain, that it was a festering wound, and that it needed attention. It needed healing. It needed love. It needed to be revisited, to be healed. And so there's been a lot of that with me, revisiting the past, understanding that some of the things that has happened, some of them had nothing to do with me. And so the weight that I had been carrying all this time, I had to go back and understand it from a different perspective, right? Some would call that shadow work. Some would call it, I haven't been in like therapy or anything like that, but this is me taking on the responsibility to learn different ways to work within myself and address things. I've been very fortunate because I've had lots of assistance in this process. And it is higher level assistance. But that's what I've been doing, lots of healing around internal things that needed attention, and it's been such a blessing. I cannot say how much of a blessing it's been to be able to not only acknowledge things that kept you in one place, or in a cycle. That's a good way of putting it. Things that kept you just kind of in a cycle, going round and round and round and round in circles. And being able to acknowledge that and break the cycle and break out of, what was unconscious, running around in, this unresolved cycle. I wouldn't say that it was madness, but it was almost like a level of comfort, but the comfort was more like a protection. It was like a protective, something protecting from pain. But sometimes we need to feel the pain of it. Some things you can't heal from without feeling the pain of it. That's why it hasn't been healed, because you haven't sat down long enough to feel it, right? You're going 100 miles an hour, not even realizing that's what you're doing. You're running from the pain. You're running from having to deal with your stuff. And that was a realization that I found. And so I had to sit myself down and I had to allow myself to feel it. And it's okay. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to go back and revisit things that was, overlooked. And it could be something as simple as, what a cousin said to you when you was 7 years old that stuck with you, or it could be something that a teacher did or did not do to show or to show that you were important part of the class, or they didn't do, which caused you to feel like you were not part of the class. You know what I mean? Just simple little stuff that sticks with us. Or for some, it could have been something even a little deeper. It could have been some type of abuse, that caused you to have a warped sense of worthiness about yourself. And so I have been healing, doing some serious internal work. But I'm fortunate and I'm so thankful because I haven't done it alone. I've had lots of help around that, which is how it has been absolutely amazing. And so, not only revisiting and healing those parts, but it also revisiting those parts gives me an opportunity to release the burden of them. Because again, as I said, some of that stuff didn't have anything to do with me. And, sometimes we carry that stuff all our lives because we have misperceived our responsibility in that. And so part of my healing has been releasing it, because when I really look at it, when I was able to revisit some things and look at them from a different perspective without taking responsibility for it. There's just some things when you're 7, you're not responsible for, right? But because you're 7, you don't understand that. And you've carried that into your adulthood, not understanding that that never had anything to do with you. You know what I mean? And so revisiting it and looking at it from a different perspective has allowed a lot of things to be released. And not only released, but allowing me to integrate those things into my experience as I move forward, because I also believe that everything that we go through is purposeful. I know that's hard for some people. It's like, well, how can you say the slaughtering, we'll use an example. How can you say the slaughtering of 1,000 people, thousands of people is purposeful? I believe that it is. I'm not sure in what way, but I believe that nothing happens by chance. I do believe that nothing happens by chance. Or how can you say that it was supposed to happen to that child? That they weren't even going to make it to the age 5. I know how crazy that sounds, but somehow I believe that everything is purposeful. And so when I go back and I'm able to look at those things, especially the things that we don't have control over, it's understanding that on the other side of that, when the healing gets done, there's a need to integrate that into my experience now, right? Not sure how that looks, but it could be something as simple as, okay, so I've been through that. I know how you feel. I know the type of struggles that you have to deal with after you have something like that happen to you, right? And so now I become part of a collective of people that have had this experience, right? And because we've had this experience, there is a level of understanding and compassion, sometimes many giftings that come along with that, that serve a specific purpose, right? And so not only was I able to go back and heal through revisiting and releasing some things and looking at things from a different perspective, but I've also been able to integrate some of those things into my life as I move forward, and helping me to make sense of it as it relates to who I am right now. Because the truth of the matter is, had those things, and I'm thinking of some of the most horrendous things that should never happen, had those things not happened to me, I would not be who I am today. And so There's purpose behind it, is what I have come to understand. And I've been able to integrate those things because, believe it or not, no matter whether we try to hide them or not, they are very much a part of us. Those wounds, those scars, you know, that those things that cause so much shame that may or may not have had anything to do with you are very much a part of us. It may be operating in the dark, right, without you even realizing it. However, it is very much a part of you, whether you realize it or not. And so having the ability and the power to integrate that in purposefully, that's where the healing makes a difference. That's where the healing comes in with that. And then also releasing myself from monotony. You know, many times it's because there's unhealed parts that we deal with things that we shouldn't, you know. We deal with many connections that are not necessarily good for us. And I don't care who it is. It could be family. It could be, you know, the closest thing that you have in this life, you know, that shares the same blood with you. That doesn't mean that it's supposed to be a part of your life. If it's unhealthy and toxic, right? I don't believe that that's supposed to be a part of your life, because I believe that we're called to peace, you know, at the end of the day. And if being around someone does not bring you peace, you have every right to dismiss that person or that thing from your life. And so the healing that I've done has allowed me to really release a lot of foolishness. A lot of foolishness. The idea around sometimes these quirky, what do I want to call them? These little quirky, I'm going to use this word, and it's a long word. These little quirky idiosyncrasies. That word means habits, right? It's a long word for habits, but it's a habit that doesn't necessarily benefit or make any sense, right? When you really think of it, it's just something that we do just because we do, right? With no benefit, with no rhyme or reason, you know. And so one of the things that could possibly be bred out of the wounds that lie in us unhealed is sometimes we develop the need to be needed, you know, and that translates as I'm worthy, right? Not knowing that you're worthy whether you're needed or not. You don't need to have someone need you for you to feel like you're worthy. That in itself says that there's some healing that needs to be done. If you feel like your worthiness as a human being is dependent upon whether someone else needs you or not, there's some healing that needs to be done. And so not only feeling the need to be needed, but it could be the opposite. It could be having a sense of codependency on someone else, not feeling like you can exist unless you have someone else to lean on, right? It goes both ways. And so that healing that I'm talking about sometimes manifests silently, you know, in many different ways. Sometimes it's this sense of codependency on people, on, you know, feeling like you can't live unless you have someone to lean on or unless someone's leaning on you. And basically what that is, it trains us, or it conditions us to give away our power. whether you're the one that's codependent or whether you're someone's codependent upon you. Either position, you're giving away your power, right? And I did a lot of that as I think back, and it was like that was my way of feeling, like I have some value here, when it was none of that. It was never none of that, any of that. And even thinking back to the way that I used to think when I was young, I could not wait. And somebody slapped me. I couldn't wait to have kids because I wanted to feel like someone needed me, and that in my mind, because of the lack of understanding and the lack of healing, right? That was my way of getting my needs met. And it wasn't really meeting needs, but it was something that could hide the fact that there was healing that needed to be done, right? And so, and I remember saying that I wanted like 10 kids and I wanted all girls, right? What was I thinking? Listen, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking, right? I was hurting is what I was doing. But just giving you an idea of how that healing shows up, how that lack of healing shows up, that woundedness, when it's operating in the background, unaware, like little subtle things like that would hint to a little bit something deeper that needed to be looked into. And so, but releasing myself from the monotony, is another thing that I focused on with, the healing aspect of where I am right now. And, it's been very interesting. It's been very interesting because you never know, it's almost like throwing a rock into a pack of wolves, and it's the wolf that howls out. That's the one. That's the one, whichever one that hollers is the one that's guilty. And so when it comes to removing yourself from toxic situations or from codependent situations, not everybody is happy when you put your foot down and when you take your power back and when you stand in that power. But that's okay. Because again, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's all about you. It's all about me right now. It always has been, and so when we learn that and we start to stand in our power, yeah, we're going to lose people. We're going to lose things, but when we really look at it, those people and those things were the very things that were keeping us unhealed when you really look at it. And so changing your perspective, it's like being grateful for where you are, being able to be content in any circumstance, no matter what, you have, no matter who you have, like that's a big deal. And for a lot of us, that's what's needed. That's what I needed. I guess I can't speak for anybody else. That is what I have needed. And so cultivating this safe space for myself has been a lot of that. It's been a lot of healing. It's been a lot of standing in my power and allowing, and liberating from within. And not being concerned about what it looks like from the outside. Again, with some of the things that I'm going through and allowing myself to experience, it's not to pull anybody in. It's not to convince anybody of anything. I feel like if there is anyone who um, resonates with where I am, it's going to be completely because there was you know, a destined moment in time for us to intersect, right? Maybe you've been through some of the same, maybe you're going through the same thing I'm going through right now. I don't know. But there is no pushing my agenda on anyone. I'm just basically being and allowing myself to be and allowing myself to um, move. Not necessarily with intention, but being open to move with the flow, right? With the flow of spirit and where I have been led and where I am being led and being open to that. And understanding my limitations, which has a lot to do with how I grew up and some of the things that I have learned and been taught, a lot of which has nothing to do with the purpose that has been placed on my life. I don't believe. When it's all said and done, maybe it led me to that place to find out where it is that I need to be or where I'm being taken. But the limitations that I have a lot to do with the teaching that I have received and the upbringing and the allowances, that I have had in my life, and their limitations. A lot of it is it's a box that I have allowed myself to be placed in. It's a box that has been created for me, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about the powers that be, that when we really look at it, don't really have our best intention at heart, right? Just to give you an example, as we are now finding out, the education system, all this time, we've been taught. As a Black woman, as a Black little girl, I was never taught about myself, in the school system. I was never taught who I was before slavery, right? I wasn't even really taught about slavery, just a couple of pages out of the history book, And so here I am growing up in a culture hungry for an identity, right? And I know we have our identity in our Creator, but even more than that, our belonging in the world, and not really having a place to identify within the classroom, things like that. Or, having certain laws and things being pushed by the government. And the reason why I'm bringing these up is to show, the box created. These are just examples, And so a lot of times it's understanding the limitations that we place on ourselves or the limitations that we have had placed on us. And it really has nothing to do with what we're capable of or what we've been called to do. I've been doing a lot of studying outside of, and I've always been a lover of, reading and learning. I'm always wanting to learn and master new things. Once I learn something, I'm on to something else. I'm just a learner. I have a very vivid imagination. I have a very active mind. Like I'm always learning. Even when I'm not learning, I'm learning because I'm absorbing stuff and analyzing it. And that's just how my brain works. I'm always learning. And so part of what I've been doing lately is moving past my limitations. I remember even being in church, and one of the things that we're always told is not to read anything but the Bible. Like, be careful what you read, But me being a lover of sci-fi, like, I love things that stretch my mind, and I love walking away from movies still trying to figure out the plot, the movies that leave you on the edge and not completely giving you the answer, the movies that challenge you to create your own ending. What do you think happened? Like, with the information that we gave, that stuff it gets my mental, engine rolling. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And so I've always been a reader, and one of the challenges that I've had, in church, in some of the churches, not all of them, because I've had the opportunity to be at some wonderful, liberated churches, but there were some that believe that you're only supposed to read the Bible, which is, I mean, that's okay. If that's what you believe, and if that's what you want to limit your education to, that's okay. But for someone like me, I read. I love sci-fi. I love, romance. I love to be able to stretch myself. And so I found myself, even as I was, studying the word. I do have a degree in biblical studies, but even as I was studying the word, I was also reading other things like the magic of thinking big, something that would stretch my imagination, something that would stretch my limitations that I've placed on myself. Because I always believed, even as a young girl, I always believed that there was just something more, as far as I can believe back. And I think that served as an irritation, like, to my mom too, and to other people, like, because I was always thinking outside of the box. I was always looking for something more, than what the eye could see. And so, but that's always been me. It's always been me. And so right now, at this point in my life, I'm given to that. I'm called to that, to release myself from the limitations, from the box that's been created for me, and so that has been part of my process over this last few years. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. And it's been peaceful in ways that I've yet to experience until now. And I'm loving it. I wouldn't change anything, nothing at all. And, I have people that ask me, about what it is that I do, and like some of the experiences that I have been able to have. And I take honor in sharing it, but as I said, I'm not trying to convince anybody or pull anybody in to think the way that I think. I'm just simply living my life and following the desire that was given to me. I believe that we are given our heart's desire, and I'm following that. And so for those that have been wondering, like, where I've been, that's what I've been doing. Just creating and cultivating. And I don't believe that it's ever too late to live, and to allow yourself to live and live in a way that serves your heart. Live in a way that brings a level of expression, to our Creator. And what better way to do that than to be open, to allow expression to flow through you, however that happens. Who's to say how that's supposed to happen? And who says it only is supposed to happen in the box? Here we have a divine creator that takes all these different parts of the universe, right? And brings it together and makes these beautiful earthen vessels, complex, so complex that we'll never ever in a million lifetimes completely understand the genius of the body. We're still unable to use 10% of our brains. Still. So that tells you how magnificent our creator must be. And for us to live in such a wide expanse, it just behooves me lately to understand that it's only supposed to be experienced in this small little section. And so for me, I have taken much pleasure and joy in allowing myself to be open for the Creator to express through me however He has given and breathed it into me. And I've had the opportunity in these last 3-4 years to experience many different things and many different perspectives on life and on existence and on how we connect with our source, how we see our source and our creator. And it's been fascinating. It's been enlightening. It's been liberating. And it's been fulfilling as well. And so I wouldn't rather be anywhere else, I tell you. And so what really strikes me the most and causes me to be overcome with appreciation and love and awe is that what took more than 20 years, I'll say 20 years, of what I was looking for in the box. For 20 years, I was looking for it in the box. And it's a culmination of everything that I just mentioned: the healing, the freedom, the liberation, the contentment, the connection with myself and, with Source. What took more than 20 years of me trying to realize that, it took less than a couple of years, by being open and by just receiving and by just flowing, with the Creator. And so that's what I've been up to. For those of you that are wondering, I see lots of people come by and, frequent my page often. They don't say much, but I feel your energy. And I kind of know, who it is that's frequenting my page. And it's okay. I'm not mad about it. I'm not worried. I mean, if I can help someone, listen, I feel like that's why we're here, to be help for one another. And so if me expressing myself and living my truth is helpful to anybody, then I think I have fulfilled part of my purpose here. And so, but I just wanted to come on and share like what I've been up to. I think part of my being able to liberate from the systematic box, has also been I think I've also learned a lot too. I've learned a lot in many different ways, from, Things like cultivating relationships, first of all with myself, and then my next important thing on my list, cultivating a viable relationship with my children. Like, what more important thing is there? One of the things that I regret is that I allowed things to come in between that. My first and foremost goal is here, cultivating. Well, they're grown now, but when they were young, I do feel like more of my time and my dedication should have been at home. But it is what it is. And again, as I said, there are no mistakes. Everything that happens is purposeful. And I'm grateful that I have beautiful, beautiful children. And could there be things that I could have done differently? Yes. But I'm here now and I'm able to make a difference now. And I see things from a different perspective. And it's amazing. It's amazing how I look at the opportunity I've been given to really, truly cultivate relationship. Not just parent-child, but relationship, right? And it's an honor to be able to do that. And I'm so thankful. And one of the other things is just how I interact with the world as well. Being able to see a little bit more clearly now that I understand myself, just being able to interact with people differently. Having healthier boundaries is definitely one. Learning about, what that looks like, what that is, what it's not, right? And so just in so many different ways, life has changed. For the better, though. It's changed for the better. And so that's where I've been. That's what I've been doing. And so what I've been doing lately is finding different ways to connect with myself. And one of the things that I've vowed to do is continue to learn. As I told you, I'm going to be a lifelong learner because I'm always absorbing information. Even when I don't want to, I'm absorbing information. And so why not do it purposefully? And so I actually was not challenged, but awoken, which I've been told so many times that I'm just a natural teacher, and so I just start sharing what I'm learning. And so, as I said, for those that feel called, I feel like it's something that will naturally cross paths. So by me doing what I feel I'm being led to do is going to definitely be helpful for someone. And so one of the things that I've been committed to doing is just continuously learning and connecting with myself in healthy ways, of which I've always learned and loved yoga. Ever since I started doing hot yoga, there was just like a love for it. Being able to feel my body, and being able to appreciate my body, right? Never in a million years would I think that I would be at a place where I would be able to cultivate a personal, what's the best way to say it? Kind of like cultivate an intimate relationship with myself, with my body, with my emotions. Like thinking of it in terms of being a separate entity, right? There's separate parts of ourselves, right? We're broken down into many different parts, and it's learning all of that and connecting with all of that in an intimate way. And no, I don't mean sexual, but I mean knowing myself, feeling myself, being able to feel what my body feels like from the inside out, and being able to feel the energy around me. Like it's just a whole nother experience. And so as I'm learning, I feel like part of my calling is to share that, right? And so I cultivated a love, because I've done it so much, for meditation. And so now that I'm, very comfortable with it, I have put together a series of meditations, and it's focused around not yoga specifically, even though I love yoga, but it's something connected to yoga. It's the chakras, and the chakras are the energy centers within the body that actually regulate the flow of prana, or life energy through our body, right? That rides on the air, the energy and the air that comes in and out of our body. And so I have put together a 7-episode series for the chakras, and it's an overall just pieces here and there, but the basic focus of it is the meditation and mantras for each part of the chakras, from the crown to the third eye, to our throat, to our heart, to our solar plexus, and our sacral chakra, and then our root chakra. 7 primary energy centers within the body. And so I formulated some meditations around those, just as a way to share what I've learned about my body. And total game changer. And so if you're looking for ways to connect with your body and understand your body more, and to be more conscious and connected, and find healthy ways to de-escalate stressful situations or times, definitely I would say go over and check out, I think we've released a total of 5 so far. We still have 2 more to go. But this is definitely something that would be definitely beneficial. Totally a game changer for me. If you love yoga, then you'll definitely love this, because this is going to help you understand yoga much better and what's happening in the body as you're doing yoga. And so, so that's what I've been up to, is really, finding ways to engage with the flow of my heart, and be open, to what that looks like, or how that flows out creatively. And so for those of you wondering, where's Leticia? Where's she been? What is she doing? That's what I've been doing. Just doing me, right? Doing me beautifully. Okay. And so, other than that, go check out the Little Chakra Meditation Mantra series. And there's also a few videos that add a little bit more information to each of the chakra centers that we've done so far. I gave a little bit more information on what that part of the body is, how it affects what part of the body it affects, how it interacts, with the outside world, outside of you, and lots of good stuff. Just stuff to just help you to, possibly find more contentment in life, because happiness and contentment has nothing to do with things or the people, around us, but it has everything to do with your connection with yourself. Everything to do with your connection with yourself. And when that is aligned and right, then you can, possibly have good connections with those outside of you, but it has to start with you. It has to start with you. And so with that being said, I'm going to stop it there. One of these days I'll be able to go live and interact with people in real time. But until then, it's recorded videos, honey. And if it's meant for me to do that, it'll happen. And if it's not, then it won't. But I feel like whoever's meant to hear this will stop by and listen. And for those that are not, then their blessing is somewhere else. Right? And so, just giving you a piece of my heart, a piece of my mind. And so with that, I wish you a very beautiful evening, and sending beautiful energy your way. Okay. And a desire for you to connect with yourself outside of any type of preconceived notions or limitations that you've placed on yourself, that would align, with your own personal principles and beliefs. That's going to look different for everybody, but whatever that means for you, I am really hoping that you find that place of contentment within yourself. Okay. All right. And I'm going to end it here. And until next time, I will talk to you all later. Bye.